Hi guys, so George Freeman is a Tory MP and a Brexiteer. He was invited on to Newsnight to talk about taking back control. He was asked about how the UK is not carrying out checks and how the EU is carrying out checks on the border when it comes to goods. This means that while UK exporters are facing delays, red tape and higher costs, the opposite is pretty much the case for EU exporters. EU goods are flowing in a frictionless manner into the UK, into Britain, while UK goods are getting stopped at the border. His response to this makes zero sense.
Is this what taking back control looks like? Because we are doing no physical checks on animals or foods coming into the country. We literally take it all on trust. And yet our farmers, our fishermen are going through endless red tape and hoops to make their exports comply. It's simply not fair.
Well, I thought Ben's piece was very good, actually, and summarised it. I mean, the headline news is, guess what? Contrary to the predictions, the UK is acting very fairly and continuing with free trade. It's Europe that's being very aggressive, immediately imposed all those extra checks, not us.
They imposed checks because you decided to become a third country. You knew. Now, surely George understands this, that when he and other Brexiteers wanted the hardest Brexit possible, that it meant that there would be a border. You're blaming the European Union for treating you like a third country that you demanded to be treated like.
We put in place a transitionary arrangement. I think that was the right thing to allow business to adapt.
A transitionary arrangement. Now, what he's talking about here, of course, is leaving the borders open. That's the transitionary arrangement. Now, why are the borders open? It's because there's a fear there will be shortages. Now, there are already shortages. So can you imagine what would happen if there were border checks taking place? People wouldn't be able to get petrol. People wouldn't be able to get their toilet paper. People wouldn't be able to get a lot of the things that they are able to get today. Things would come to a grinding halt. There would be probably civil unrest. So the government know this. So what their solution is not to carry out checks on goods moving from the EU into Great Britain. Now, this isn't a long-term plan. Although the Tories don't actually have long-term plans, it seems. Everything is tactical. Just get over the hump of today. But leaving the gate open is not a solution.
And COVID has been a huge shock to supply chains and to businesses. And as Gareth just agreed with Ben on, we have many businesses here that also rely on imports. So
just run that one past us again then. So you actually didn't think you didn't think the EU would impose any checks after we left the EU? Really?
No, I didn't say that.
Yes, you basically did say that. You're like, how dare the EU impose all these checks immediately after us leaving? They should have trusted us in a way.
I just point out that, and I think this links to the point in Northern Ireland, where Lord Frost has rightly, I think, just warned the EU very clearly that, this requires good faith. And, Northern Ireland, we're seeing some very serious disruption to trade.
Look, did you want to be treated like a third country or not? Because if you said, look, we shouldn't have left the single market and the customs union, then I would fully agree with George here. But that's not his position. He's a Brexiteer. He wanted to leave the single market and the customs union. He's not campaigning to rejoin the single market and the customs union. If he was, then I'd give him my full support. But he's not interested in doing that. His position seems to be the EU imposed restrictions on us for being a third country, and we don't like that. They should trust us in some way. But you're a third country. You wanted to... I can't get my head around this mentality.
200 companies no longer operating, some risk to medicine supply, and considerable disruption. And
so unilateral, that threat of unilateral action is what you think will help us break through the deadlock, is it?
no, I'm just making the point that you might have, indeed probably Newsnight did, expect that post-Brexit Britain would be aggressive and would be pulling up the borders and turning against trade. Not at all. It's actually the UK.
But the European Union said, do you want to remain within the single market and the customs union so that we don't need to have friction on trade? And you said, no, we don't want that. We don't want anything got to do with your damn single market. We want out. And many experts were saying, look, if you leave the single market, there will be restrictions. And the response from Brexiteers was, of course there will not be. And the follow-up question was, why? And of course, the Brexiteer response was, because they need us more than we need them. Of course, they're not going to put up a barrier between us and them. They need our goods. They love our products. It would be insane for the European Union to treat us like a third country, the third country that we want to be. We're special. They have to treat us like a special case. And the problem here is that this is the Brexit mentality. We are special. Treat us like a special case. And the European Union are saying, you're not special. To you, you are, but to the rest of the world, you're not. And we're going to treat you like any other third country.
That has put in place a transitionary arrangement, not been aggressive in imposing any more standards than we're used to having, in order to give British businesses time to adapt.
So basically he's saying here, we didn't want to take back control because that would be aggressive. So Brexiteers had been banging on since 2016, we need to take back control. And as soon as you had the possibility to take back control, your decision is, we don't want to be taking back too much control. We didn't want to take back any control, it seems, on the border when it came to goods. So how can you say, we need to take back control, we need people to vote for us in order so we can take back control, and then as soon as you had the possibility to take back control, you left the border open? I can't get my head around that. Now, what Brexiteers also tend to do is say that, well, look, every country is suffering at the moment. Trade is down because of the pandemic. Remember, there's this pandemic and we have to be extremely concerned about that. We have to remember that it's its fault that everything is down. Well, that's not always the case, because if we actually look at some of the data, this is from Eurostat, you can see here, trade, I don't know if you can see it on the screen very well, but it says here EU exports to and EU imports from. So if we look at, for example, China. Now, EU exports to China, growth between 2020 and 2021, were up 16%. If we look at imports from the EU, EU imports from China, you can see it was growth 13.4%. Okay, so there was a pandemic, but there was growth in imports, EU imports from China. If we look at the next country, United States, once again, EU imports from the United States were up 5.4% from 2020 to 2021, the first 6 months. Now, if we jump the UK for a moment, Switzerland up 8.6, Russia 41.2, that's a massive jump, Turkey 26%, Japan 12%, etc. But there is one anomaly here, it seems. The United Kingdom down 17.1%. So EU imports from the UK are down 17.1%. But on the other side, EU exports to the UK are up 6.2%. But if there is a pandemic, that means that all imports and exports must be down. But it's not the case. So Brexiteers are once again lying. Now, they've lied about taking back control, they're lying about the pandemic. What are they going to lie about next? The data doesn't lie. These people lie. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think about all of this. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot. I want to say a big thank you to all of my patrons. You ensure that this channel continues to exist. I'm eternally grateful for all of your support. If you join Patreon, you will receive instant access to our Discord server, where we have both audio and video chats. You can chat with me and other patrons, where we discuss important and non-important issues. Becoming a patron per month costs about the same as a large coffee, so why not check it out?